If you haven't figured that out, that's you. Thank you for jumping on. Happy Friday or Saturday, depending on where you are in the world. I do have some people who are listening in and watching in from all over. So thank you for your viewership. I appreciate that. So, there's this character it's one of my favorite stories, is Alice in Wonderland, right? In the very, very beginning of the story, you have this very frantic, anxious, like you would imagine this guy probably has ulcers, and this is the bunny, right? Oh, I'm so late, right? And so the bunny's not really, and this is weird, the bunny's not really concerned about whatever he's getting himself to. He's more concerned about not getting there at all, right? And that's because of time. That's because of time in and of itself. Okay, now we're going to talk about time today like we have before, but I want to explore it in a very different way. And of course, at the end of this, we're going to give you some tips, basically from NLP and also neuroscience. So we're going to talk about time. We're going to talk about time as anxiety, right? So I don't want you to think of time as a moment on your watch. And we've talked about time before, but I want you to think of time as two different things, right? So I want you to think of time as anxiety, and I want you to think of time as process. Okay, so one is kind of like a nuanced, positive way of looking at it. And obviously looking at time as anxiety is obviously going to make you shift your way of thinking about time in and of itself. Okay. So we measure things in this world, the staged world, that's what I call it, right? As we connect to things, okay? So we're like, okay, who are you hanging out with today? What do you do? But when you say, what do, you usually involve yourself, which is a person, in relationship to what you do, a job. What am I saying here, right? Hey, Brianna, welcome to the channel. And so what we're doing here is we're exploring why time is a form of anxiety, especially as it relates to our manifestations, right? But then also time is process. And then also that concern of like, how long is it going to take for this thing to show up? Why is it taking so long? So we're going to talk about all those different reasons why things could be taking time, because obviously the guru that I focus on, which is Neville Goddard, right, is ultimately talking about why things seem to take time. So he talks about intensity could be the reason. He talks about beliefs. He talks about a series of things that we're going to explore in this talk today. And again, remember, at the end, I'm going to give you some tips backed by science, right? That's going to hook you up and help you out, right? And smash time once and for all. Because that's what this is about, right? Getting really so damn good that you can manifest shit on the fly. And that's what you want to be able to do. That's what you want to believe that you can do. That's what you want to get to the point of deep, deep confidence so that you can live the best life ever. And one time in the future, we'll meet and high five each other, right? So again, why time though? So again, back to the bunny, right? So the bunny at the beginning of Alice in Wonderland, who's frantic. To him, it doesn't matter where he's getting to. He thinks it does, but he's measuring everything, his own success or his own goal, by time, right? But time is a loss. Time is what he doesn't have. So he's already given himself the loss, right? He doesn't realize that. But once you measure your success or your manifestation or your imaginary scene as in where the hell is this thing? Why isn't it showing up? What am I doing wrong? All of those questions are forms of time. I know you don't think like that, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change your thinking, one, about time. But when you think of time, all I want you to do is replace the word time with anxiety. So right when you come up here, as in when you're creating your scene from the first person, and then you come out of it and you're like, where is it? Oh my gosh, where's that? Right, and you start biting your nails, and it's been a day, it's been 2 weeks, it's been 6 months. Where is it at? Why isn't it showing up? Right? And then you think you need to do it more, or you think you need to do something less. You think you need to go to a therapist. You think you need to do all of these things. All of those now, by the way, all of those things that you think that you need effort to get done are now taken on the form of anxiety. So Whereas when you first started and you're like, hey, I'm manifesting, right? And you're creating the scene and you're in the zone, right? And you're in flow, whatever it is that you want to call it, right? You're in the mental pocket, okay? And you're building out your world and you feel like it's actually happened. You feel like you've impressed the subconscious, right? And you've done all those things. You've even used my techniques that I've taught you, right? Then you feel like, oh yeah, I'm totally more confident. And then like 2 hours later, you start having doubts, right? And then, so again, doubt is a form of time, right? And time is anxiety, okay? But anxiety means you don't have it, all right? So all of these things like doubt, time, right? Where is it? How is it going to show up? All of those are forms of anxiety. That's not meant to give you anxiety. It's meant to really get you to the point where you're like, I need to distance myself from doubt. I need to distance myself from time. I need to distance myself from, and again, how do we do this? So again, you need to understand why that is happening, okay? So again, anytime that we have thoughts, right? We get dopamine, we get serotonin, and we get oxytocin, amongst other ones. And depending on what we think, we get different other neurotransmitters. Okay, what that means is you're getting rewarded for certain thoughts. Like, so hear that. You're getting rewarded for certain thoughts. Whether you like those thoughts or not doesn't matter. Now, obviously, we want to change those, but what's happening is oxytocin. Hey, Casey, welcome, man. Welcome. And by the way, I actually used to do that when I lived in Hawaii. So again, what you want to do is you want to really attribute anxiety to time. And the reason why I say that is because you don't want to look at time, especially when you're manifesting from your imaginary scenes in here, as something that is important to you. You really don't. You want to get rid of time. You want to get rid of time as valuable. Time doesn't matter, right? Now, I know in your head, you're going to be like, yeah, but I need it by this time. Or yeah, I really want to be married by this age. But did you hear that? Like, I actually have a client in my coaching group, and we talked about this several times, where this person wants to get married at a certain time in their life, right? And maybe have kids, right? And this person's concerned about their biology and all the social pressure and so on. So that's why I want you to think of time as anxiety, not as a good thing. Now, I'm gonna actually contradict that in a second and show you how you can actually use time in your favor. But right now, what you need to do is you need to stop measuring things by time. Because in here, there's only now. There isn't a past or a present, right? And anyways, check this out. All that you're experiencing in what you call life right now is all now. It's all now. You're experiencing this moment with me now. The next moment, now. It's only now. But everything that you have preloaded, meaning all the beliefs, all of the actions, all of the things that you interpret are all ironically from the past, which at that point was now, right? When you were 7, it was now then, because you were now then, right? Are you with me? Too confusing? Keep going? Okay. So, what I want to do though is give you this idea, right? That time is anxiety, but then time is also process. Okay, now that's actually from quantum theory. There's a great book by Carlos Rovelli, Rovelli. I think you can even get a free PDF of his book by just Googling it and putting PDF after his name, right? And it's basically talking about how time is a process, right? Time is a process. Time is not a moment or a second on your watch. It's a process. So, for example, when I won money, when I manifested winning money, okay, from a game show, I knew that whatever had to happen needed to happen the way it did, right? So then what I said was, I know I'm going to win this money. I know I'm going to win this money. I don't care how. And I wanted to do it on a game show. I didn't care what the game show was, but I wanted to win money from a game show. And I manifested that, right? So what happened is basically the process that unfolded that got me the money on the game show was actually not me. It was somebody related to me who ended up being a contestant, and then we both got the money, right? And so the money did, like, so basically that was the process. Now, you might say, oh, well, there was time that it took to get there. But you can't think of time as that, because the problem is that when our culture, right, the way our culture is modeled, and when I say culture, I mean the world, right? The way our culture is modeled towards time is that we lose time, right? Think about this. There is a beauty industry. I didn't say booty, I said beauty. I mean, there might be a booty industry, but there's a beauty industry, right, out there that is what? Predicated on you fearing the hell out of aging. What is aging? It's time. At least that's how we understand aging. I don't call it aging, right? I don't agree with aging, right? And yet you're like, no, yeah, but that's totally diluted and blah, 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 blah. No, language is diluted. That's where we learn all these ideas, right? What? Because somebody calls it a piece of grass, and because billions of people agree with it, does it mean that it's me? No. I mean, there's a great quote that I actually for you, right? Language exiles us from the object of our desire. Let me say that again. Language exiles us from the object of our desire. What in the hell does that mean? That means anytime you think of an idea, you've already limited it, right? So again, if you accept time as limiting, you're going to experience time as what? Limiting. Okay, so you don't want to accept time as limiting. That's why it's better to understand time as process, right? Sorry about this. This is the behind the scenes crap. Okay, so time as process. Okay, that's all you need to accept. Okay, so hey, I created an imaginary scene up here. Okay, and then there's a process, not time, because that's gonna mess you up. The more that you think, how long is this gonna happen? Because how long is a form of doubt. And then what's going to happen? That's a form of doubt. So notice how the question how, which is something that we don't get to know, right? Because this thing called God or the imagination or love or source, whatever you want to call it, right, has ways that we do not know, right? And that's written in the Bible, which is not a historical book. It's a psychological one, okay? And it's written to the mental space we call the imagination, right? It's a guidebook for the imagination, or for what you might call the soul, right? Or God or whatever, okay? And it's a reminder to wake up. It's a reminder to wake up what? To our own divinity. So the more time we measure time, which is what? That it's a human construct. I mean, every friggin' physicist from Sheldon to Brian Greene, and I know Sheldon wasn't a real one, but I'm just saying, right? Says, listen, time doesn't exist. So why do we get hung up on it? Well, because the status quo, because we don't want to change, because we have loaded, and I mean loaded limiting beliefs. When I say limiting beliefs, I say that they're loaded, I don't mean that you just have a limiting belief about like, oh, all cars break down. No. When I say loaded, I'm talking about you having that belief of cars breaking down and loaded by your own history, by your own memories, by your own emotions, by your own things that you've accepted as true, okay? And so you have to go through the deep work. This is what I call the deep work. This is the kind of stuff that we do in my coaching program, right? And so we do the deep work of going in and actually finding out what these loaded limiting beliefs are. Because with these limiting beliefs, yes, you can manifest with them. But who wants to manifest purposefully with limiting beliefs? Raise your hand. Anybody? Right? No, nobody does, right? You want to actually feel free. You want to feel like you have the power. I've got the power, right? All this kind of stuff. So you want to do the deep work of finding out what is behind the curtain of each limiting belief, okay? And partially to do that is that you have to actually figure out where your fears lie, because time is a form of anxiety, which is also a form of fear. So every time you say, where's that? Where's my manifestation? You're measuring your desires through fear, right? One, because you think I deserve it, but then guess what that means? If you think, if you've come out of your imagination, like creating your imaginary scene, right? And you think I deserve it, so where is it? Guess what you didn't do. And this could be one of the many reasons why you're still locked and looped in of how long is it going to take, is that you don't believe in here you actually have it. And you actually don't believe in here is reality. So one of the most radical things that Neville Goddard says, is that you have to accept the truth that imagination is your only reality, because there's no time in here. So then if you're coming out of your imagination or your visualizations and you're like, where the hell is this thing? Why is it taking so long, right? All you're doing is you're going in, you're creating the energy that is being sent out to actually produce what you desire, and then saying, where is it? And then you're cutting it off, right? And so because you are so preloaded by your limiting beliefs that have maybe 1 minute to 25 years of limiting beliefs that have actually supported it, right? And so you need to do the deep work of actually discovering what they are. One of the techniques that I want to give you right now that I do, it's actually a really simple one, is one, I actually talk to the inner self. Yes, I talk to myself. I don't really care. But I talk to the inner self and I say, listen, can you guide me to where my limiting thoughts are? And dude, I'm not joking. The longest that's ever taken for a thought or a dream or anything to show me has been maximum a week, right? So that's pretty crazy, right? So I really encourage you to try to do that, because the more that you do that, the more active that you are, right, in actually participating in your own emancipation and your own liberty, the faster you can manifest, right? So people are really, really hung up on this fast manifestation. Well, guess what? Stop measuring time, because fast means it's the ability to say, I want this, and then it show up, right? But guess what? Guess what happened? You had to go here, and you had to trust that this was the only thing. And this, in terms of time, is only and always now, right? That means you have to believe that you always have it now. That means you have to go out in this world after you've imagined your scene and you've lived it from the first person and you've repeated that one action over and over and over and over, right? With the emotions of having it, you then bring those emotions out of the imagination into this realm, into this world, into the stage world, and you participate in this world through those emotional filters, right? And so you don't let anything take away from that. You hyper focus, you go and flow, whatever cool words you want to use, right? To actually get you to accept, okay, so what I need to do is I need to take the emotions of joy and excitement, right? And I need to take that with me and live those out every day. And then anytime doubts come up, boom, stare right back to those emotions, okay? So again, anytime you're asking how long, okay, then you are in doubt. Okay, and that's not a judgment. Everybody's going to do it, right? Neville says the two things that you will for sure have while you're here on this thing called Earth is God and Satan. And what is Satan? He's not some red dude in a pitchfork, like having a pitchfork, right? Having a pitch fit, whatever you want to say, okay? He is the embodiment of doubt, or the embodiment of reaction, meaning you're reacting from lack, from not having, from fear, right? Because lack is really just a form of fear. And so so is time. Because you already have it in here, okay? So then I'm going to give you another technique, okay? And this is actually directly from the Bible, because remember, the Bible is not historical. So there's a really cool, and remember, the Hebrews wrote in pictorial language, okay? What that means is their language was not meant to be taken literally. It was meant to be almost read like a story. Almost every word you run into in Hebrew is actually telling you a story, not telling you the word itself. This is why sometimes you could run into certain words in the Bible and they can have up to 12 different meanings depending upon the context. And yes, that was actually literal, right? And so like the word glory, right? It has anywhere from 8 to 12 different meanings, okay? And sometimes it just means level to level, meaning like in gaming terminology, going from glory to glory means like, dude, I just racked on collected so much XP that I'm at the next level, right? That's what that means, okay? Now, let's come back to this. So the Hebrews have a word, actually a word picture for hope. And it is not how Americans or Westerners understand hope, okay? Because hope means I'm longing for something. Nope. It is not the same. In fact, they tie up this idea of hope with a child. And so what does Jesus say to experience the kingdom, which is really another way of saying, how can you experience your desires, right? Well, then here it is, right here, hope. Now, in the Hebrew, it's really interesting because the definition is kinetic. Okay, that's not the actual definition. What I'm saying is there's a type to it. And the type of definition is called kinetic. And what that means is it's a physical definition. Okay, so check this out. When you hope for your desire, do not hear American word or westernized understanding of hope. You don't long. There's no longing at all. Okay, hoping, this is a great, beautiful picture, all right, is the picture that they give is a child, right? A child who is excited that their dad is coming home and they're literally bouncing all over the house. Like, I mean, they're jumping on the couch, right? They're like shouting out in excitement right? And they're just full on. Now, they don't see dad. Dad hasn't come home yet, right? But they know that dad is on the way, right? And so they are excited because they're expectant. They're expecting dad to be there. But not just expecting, they expect it because they know dad is returning home from work. Okay? That is, so do you hear this? In the Hebrew mind, it has nothing to do with longing. It has to do with two things. Expecting that leads to knowing. Okay? Are you with me? So it's an expectant mindset of like, yeah, I'm expecting this because I know it's going to be there. Right? So so that's how you crush time. Like, meaning time is fear, right? If time freaks you out, or even if you're on a time crunch, because people say, well, how do you manifest with time? Well, this is how you do it, right? You actually expect it with knowing. Because remember, how do Hebrews define it, right? It's the child who bounces up all over the chairs and all this kind of stuff, right? And they know it, and they're jumping up and they're looking out the window because they know dad is coming, right? They know it. It's a deep knowing, okay? Hey, thank you, Stephen. Appreciate you. Thank you for visiting, all right? So again, expectancy isn't, but here's the thing. If you lock into expectancy without the knowing, it's not going to manifest. Oh yeah, I expect good things to happen to me. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. It's great. That's being positive. But if your expectancy doesn't lead to knowing, you won't manifest it. This is why I need you to realize this, and this is why I'm repeating myself, okay? Is that hope is not the same as longing for something. Like we say here, ooh, I hope I get those Taylor Swift tickets, right? And don't judge me. But I mean, I'm just kidding. And so again, hope, right? Hope is not longing, right? It is not. It is not a wish. It is not a demand. It is not a, man, I kind of think this might happen. No. It is the child who knows the father's coming home. So they're in expectancy of knowing that the father's returning. Now, obviously, as you may know, the father in this metaphor is your desire. Your desire is coming to you, but you're expecting because you know. The expectancy must lead to the knowing. Or another way of saying that is, right, it must lead to a form of confidence within you. Your confidence isn't outside of you, right? You don't go look for it. You don't go look for birds before landing. You don't go look for 11111. You don't go consult a palm reader. You don't do any of those things. This is why Neville wasn't a fan of those, because you're then seeking out reinforcement of the faith that you lack. Okay, did you hear that? This is why you don't do and light candles, and why you don't, have crystals hanging around your neck. All those kinds of things. And again, by the way, that sounds like a judgment. If you do those things, great, go for it. But just know, never will any of those things manifest for you. Okay? And so you are the only thing that manifests. You are the placebo in that sense, right? Yes, Stephen. Yeah. So hope out of faith, hope and love was always the one that didn't make sense, right? Yeah, hope out of faith, hope and love was always the one that, yeah. So again, hope, yeah, it's a very kinetic understanding. And I mean, you could even bring in, actually, Stephen, that you can bring in the love element to help you manifest. And this is actually radical. And you know what, Stephen, I actually wasn't going to do this, but since you brought it up, thank you. I'm going to actually use this as like another tip you can use. Okay. Because love in the biblical sense, I mean, not even biblical sense, just in the Greek sense, which would have informed the New Testament, which is where Jesus says, right, you must love your neighbor. Now, check this out. Remember, this is mental. So he's not talking about your neighbor outside in this world. You may read it that way, and there's nothing wrong with reading it that way, but every verse is mental, everything from the Old Testament to the New Testament. And we're actually doing a Bible study, paid for Bible study on my Discord, where we actually tear this apart and then we turn it into tips for you guys, right? So if you're interested, click on that free link to join the Discord. It's free, right? But basically, love is from the Greek word agape. Now, my tip to you is that if you do go and read the Bible on your own without any help, do not take the first word definition of the Hebrew or Greek ever, because a lot of that's preloaded with Christian theology, right? And what I say earlier, every Hebrew word has anywhere from 3 to 12 different meanings depending upon the context. It's not very different from Spanish, right? Which I'm bilingual in. So Yeah. So, okay, back to love, because I want to give Stephen some space here. And love is agape, but agape is the highest form. And when he says love your neighbor, that means your thoughts. Okay. But how do you do that? Well, agape in the Greek, right, means to, and Jesus actually lays it out, right, is to what? The highest form of love is what? Is when a friend sacrifices himself for another. So check this out. You're a friend to yourself. So when Jesus says a friend, you're going to think the friend like that you have, your bestie, your BFF, whatever it is, right? Your imaginary friend. No, your friend is your thought. And so when he says, listen, right, the greatest form of love is to die for a friend, it's saying I must actually be willing to die to my limiting beliefs so that I can embody and be the friend. I can actually embody my new desire. So it's literally dying to your old state. It's dying to your limiting beliefs and giving that up. So that's the highest form of love in the Bible, is dying to your limiting beliefs, dying to those senses and fears and doubts and concerns, right? And all those things that are trying to trip you up and dying to them. Okay. And even when he says, like, for example, hey, you need to deny your mother and your father, he's not talking about family. It's your family of thoughts, your family of limiting beliefs, right? And so denial then is you must deny them. Okay, that means you don't give them space. You don't give them a mental address. You don't say, hey, they live with me, right? So a lot of people, especially today in the world like TikTok and stuff, people love to say, well, man, I have loads of intrusive thoughts and I have loads of these issues and I have loads, like we're in a time of like where people are almost worshiping their own issues on social media, and they're just telling that story over and over and over and over again. So then therefore they're going to experience that, right? Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you must die. Yeah, but die isn't, right? It's mental. It means I must die to the old self, right? Yeah, exactly. So again, I mean, and that's, oh man, sorry. I hope it's a good cry. But you know, this is one of those things where you can use anything in scripture, and that's why I do the Bible study as a tool. And I'm being literal. This is why, you know, we do this Bible study group. This is why I do every Friday. We have another group where we dissect all of these different things about manifestation through psychology, through behavioral science, right? And that's why I do what I do. I love coaching, you know, and if you're interested in that, get in touch. But back to this. So again, what we're dealing with though is when we're always measuring against time, okay? Then we're measuring against a loss, because the way in which this world, the stage world, right, wants us to understand time is that it is always at a loss, right? I mean, think about this. What do we always say about time? I don't have enough time, right? Or whatever it is, right? And that's what we need to get out of our mind, quite literally, okay? We need to be fully aware that it is our belief systems about time that will influence our manifestations, okay? So, and again, here's a really quick tip as well. Enjoy the journey to getting your desire, okay? Many people don't do this, and I get it. I actually struggled with this for a time. Enjoy the time, so to speak, that it takes to get you to your desire. Don't be anxious. Right? What does it say? Don't be anxious about anything. That word nothing literally means don't even be anxious about the ether. Don't even be anxious about the no thing, right? And so like in the Never-Ending Story, right? The nothingness. Don't be afraid about nothingness. Don't be afraid of, what it's really saying is don't make up stuff to be afraid of, right? Don't make up stuff to be afraid of. That's yet another way of saying when it says don't worry about anything, right? Don't go seek out reasons to be worried. So then what do? Here's another tip, right? Look for reasons to be happy. Look for reasons to enjoy what Neville called the bridge of infinite, or your journey that unfolds to get you to where you want to be, right? So enjoy that, because we deserve to enjoy it, right? We're meant to be here waking up to the fact that we're divine, okay? So why would that want to be painful? Why would you want to overthink the process? Overthinking is a form of time. Why? Because it takes away, right? And so what you have to realize is that's why you need to remove time as any component and then start embracing hope. But remember, hope is expectancy of what? Expectancy of that leads to a knowing. Okay? And that's what it is. It's not expectancy all by itself. It's an expectancy that leads to knowing. Okay? So we're kind of reaching the time that I'm around here for. So I want to give you a tip on how to do this. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you 2 tips. And if you've never watched me before, then these are going to be completely new to you. If you have, then you're going to hear some of these, but I'm going to actually use them in a different way that's going to help you with time. Okay, so that you reduce the temptation to ask, how long is this going to take? Because everything has already happened in here. So every day, you always remind yourself, if every doubt comes up, or if like, man, shit, this is taking way too long. Yeah, but I remember when. This is why Neville's technique of I remember when is extremely powerful. This is not just some feel-good masturbatory technique, okay? Masturbatory just means, well, you get the word, but it just makes you feel good and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't create life, right? And so, and that's what we want. I want life for you. I want great things for you, right? And so again, I remember when means you've created a memory. That's this. You've created a scene in here from the first person, doing that one action, having somebody reinforcing, and like a friend or somebody saying, whoa, that's awesome. You got this much money, or hey, that's awesome. That person came back into your life. Whatever it is, right? You're using this as the mental stage. And then when you doubt, when it's like, wait, it hasn't showed up yet, say, I remember when. I remember when, because this is a memory now. So then you point to the memory, okay? And then if you want the second tip, and this is a tip that I've talked about in my last video, right? So check out that as well, is Neville's technique is inception, and we're actually gonna do a workshop on how to do this. Like we're gonna break it down like from neuroscience and everything, right? And so it's inception, where when you're in the scene, you think from being in the scene as the event happening, and then you think, oh, I remember when I manifested it. So you actually remember, like okay, because some people get confused with this. Let's say right now, I'm closing my eyes and I'm creating a scene, okay? And that scene is to, hey, oh man, I'm really enjoying this Starbucks. So I grab the cup and all this kind of stuff. And yes, I'm closing my eyes on purpose. So I want you to see this, how it plays out for you. So, and then you reach over and all you're gonna see is this, because you're doing it for first person. Feel the plastic of the cup and you see the Starbucks kind of like Lilith character and all this kind of stuff, right? And then you grab it. And then you drink it and you taste it. It tastes good, right? And you keep repeating and you're like, oh man, I love Starbucks. And then you just keep doing and repeating the scene, okay? So then when you come out of it, right, everything in you is gonna be like, yeah, but I don't have my drink, right? Or maybe an hour later, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, but look at it, it's taking forever, or whatever it is, right? And you start counting time, right, which is a form of anxiety, okay? Then what you do is say, no, I remember when. I remember when I felt the cup. I remember when I talked to the barista. I remember when I drank it. I remember when it tasted so good, right? All of these kinds of things that you want to be leading your thoughts back to and then generating the emotion. But remember, the emotion's not enough. It must lead to a what? A knowing. Okay, so you're doing that even in this world. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Right? But then let's just say that you have some pretty sticky limiting beliefs, or let's say that this time issue for you is really hardcore, or like you're like, yeah, but I'm on a time crunch, or whatever it is, okay? I'm gonna give you 2 different tips here from NLP, all right? And I'm gonna give you more different ones as well, because I've been using the same ones, but I just want you, because our brain loves repetition according to research. That's why I keep using the same techniques if you've seen any of my other videos, because it will actually get you to the point where you're like, oh, this is secondhand. I can do this in the moment and I feel awesome, right? And that's what I want for you guys. This is what I do. This is why I coach, right? Is for you already as awesome humans to get even more awesome with manifestation, right? And I'm good at what I do. And so I'm good at getting you where you need to go, right? And that sounds cocky, and I don't mean it to make it sound that way. It's just that I love what I do. So I want you to do this. This is one tip, okay? And this is called basically modifying your submodalities. Don't worry, I'm going to explain it. Your submodalities are those things in here, as in your scenes, right? And you're changing them. Okay, so you're actually changing those things. So let's say your fear is this isn't going to happen on time, or why is it taking so long, or I fear time because I have, because when I was younger, my mom was always saying, you are late, you're always late. right? Or maybe you got anxiety because in school about time, or, you know, because the bell and all this Pavlovian shit, whatever it was, okay? So what you want to do is you want to create one scene. And that scene, this is going to be crazy because you're not going to hear this a lot in a lot of manifestation circles because it's all about avoidance. This is the opposite of avoidance, okay? You want to create the scene that you fear the most. Okay, you want to create the scene of like, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't happen? Okay, now this is going to sound weird. Okay, you're going to actually create that scene that you fear the most. And even if it's time sensitive, create the time sensitivity in the scene. And remember, it's from first person. I want you to feel it all. I know, walk with me, don't worry. There's actually something more to this. So I want you to build out that scene. Okay, and I want you to feel everything. I want you to have all the sounds, and there's gonna be 3 knobs at the lower right, and I'm trying to like show you as if they were on the screen, but it's gonna be your screen from the first person. You're not watching a movie of yourself, right? And you're gonna actually turn up the knob for the sound, right? Whatever the sounds were in that scene that caused anxiety, then you're gonna actually turn up the volume. I mean, sorry, the emotion. So you're gonna feel a little bit anxious, and then right. And then you're going to do the color. This is the color of the scene. So, right? So, I mean, if you're wearing a green shirt like this, then you turn it up, right? It doesn't matter what it is. If you're in a forest, turn up the color, okay? So what you're going to do then, this is going to be crazy, is then what I want you to do is in that moment, right then, right when you've turned it up and you feel it, let it go for like maybe 2 seconds, and then I want you to turn down the knobs as fast as you can. Turn down the color, turn down the sound, turn down the emotions all the way down, boom, boom. All 3 should be turned off, right? So again, and then when you turn on the color, it's going to turn black and white. Then what I want you to do is I want you to either push it or I want you to let it just float away or put it behind something, right? But what I want you to do is let it float away. As it becomes smaller, I want you to literally overlay or choose your ideal scene, okay? Now, what that means is, you know, whatever your ideal scenario would have been in that case, right? Whatever it is that you wanted. Maybe it was like, oh, I went to this game and I didn't win any money. Okay, well then imagine a scene where you won all the money. You were the #1 winner, right? So again, that scene where you didn't win anything, which is where it brought all the fears and anxieties, right? Because maybe you need that money to pay bills or whatever it is, then you're actually blacking and whiting that scene, okay? Because that's removing its power. You're turning down the sound, right? And then here's a funny way to do it. If you want to leave the sound on, okay? If you want to leave the sound on, then squeak voices. Your voice and everybody else's voices. And yes, when I say squeak, like talk like this, right? Like they're high on balloons. Okay, high on helium, okay? So that's gonna actually cartoonify and make it hilarious because then that's gonna take the severity and the seriousness out of it, right? And then remember, what are you doing? You're either actively pushing it away from you or you're letting it float away until it's about this size, right, in your imagination. Then what I want you to do is I want you to start seeing something huge, like a huge colorful screen coming towards you. In that scene is you and your ideal scenario, okay? So, and again, what are you doing? You have 3 knobs. Those 3 knobs is you're turning up the sound, you're turning up the color, and you're turning up emotions. So then what's happening is, and I'm explaining to you right now why this works, your brain literally speaks in color. Your brain speaks in volume. Your brain speaks in emotion. So you're using all of these to speak the language of the subconscious, right? Okay. So you're actually using that to say, okay, now what I want you to do is create the ideal scene. So again, using this example of like you winning money from a game or something like that, right? And you're jumping up and down and you feel it. By the way, you feel the jumping up and down. Like you're actually feeling it in your imagination, right? You're feeling the actual like lightness of being off the ground, okay? And then you're turning that up and you're turning the color up and you're turning the sounds up, right? And then you're gonna let that, what's eventually gonna happen is it's gonna get so big, like stretch it out like taffy. Let that overlay the black and white scene so much so that it takes over that scene, okay? And then what'll happen is I want you then, once you feel the intensity of those emotions, of the joy, then I want you to do is I want you to take your first index finger and your thumb, only when you feel the intensity of those emotions, and press down really hard, okay? Not like bleeding hard, but like hard enough, okay? And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna do that 2, 3, 4 times out of one day. maybe over 5 days. What you're going to do is you're going to hardwire that feeling. So let's say you actually have those doubts, you can actually press those fingers together, and that's going to down regulate and remind your body, no, I actually remember I felt those emotions. And so again, you want to use this technique, and you can use it for any emotions. You can use this for more than one thing, right? And you can use this for any technique. If you want to feel like, hey, I'm an awesome manifester, well then guess what? Go and here's another technique, and then I'm gonna end this. Okay. This is called the Circle of Excellence from NLP. Okay, so if you're looking for like directions, you can actually put those two in Google and find them. So it's called the Circle of Excellence, and I've modified them to fit with my own coaching program. So definitely get in touch if you're looking for coaching. You know, I love what I do, and I love helping people, and you know, I'm good at it. So again, imagine a circle. And in this circle is nothing right now, but on the rim of the circle itself, the actual like circle itself is a color. Now that color is going to represent like joy or possibility or whatever it is. Okay. So I want you to choose a color that makes sense to you. Okay. Try not to go goth, but like usually like blue or gold or yellow or something along those lines. Okay. Now that is going to be treated like a well. Okay, but a well that you can't see down. It just almost like a time portal, and you throw stuff into it. So what I want you to do is I want you to throw in, like, let's say if you have anxiety about time, or anxiety about social pressure, or anxiety about not having enough confidence, I want you to throw the opposite into it. So every time you throw it into it, it disappears, like you're throwing it into a time portal. But it is a well. You are that well. Okay, but every time you throw something into it, I want that color that you chose to light up. So if it's gold, every single time you throw in confidence, boom, like light up, right? Or if you want to feel timelessness, so you don't have anxiety about time, throw timelessness in there, right? And once you throw it in, boom, that like golden color just lights up, boom, right? So every single time. Then once you figure out 5 to 10 emotions that you want to feel, and remember, it's always the opposite. So you don't put fears in there. You only put good in there, okay? And then once you do that, like choose to actually light up the whole rim, as in the circle lining itself, right? And keep the actual intensity of that light almost to the point of blinding, like lit up. And you're going to then, from the first person, walk into that circle. And you're literally just going to bask and saturate and marinate yourself in those emotions. And imagine all those emotions are rising, not above you and around you, in and through you, from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head, right? And you do that over and over and over and over, okay? So definitely try those techniques, and I guarantee you within 14 to 30 days max, not only will you be a different person, you'll be more confident, you'll be more creative, you'll be more healed, you won't care about time as much, and so on and so forth. So I know there's more I could go on here. I mean, this is my background, like psychology and understanding human behavior and limiting beliefs and all this kind of stuff, but I also don't want to overdo it. So thank you all for taking time for being, so what is one area you've used this for? So interesting. So I have used the Circle of Excellence for actually a few things, to be honest with you. So 1, to work on confidence. 2, to work on the feeling of abundance, like financial abundance, right? And so those are the 2, and also just feeling health, like feeling healthy, right? So I'll throw in health in there. I'll throw abundance in there. And again, you sit in there long enough, right, that you feel it through you. And I mean, when I say through you, I don't mean just in your imagination. I'm talking about in your body, okay? And then again, you can use that anchoring technique that I just told you, which is where you take the thumb and the first finger and you press it together. Okay, and that's going to anchor. But yes, you need to do this more than once for it to actually work. You usually need to do this about twice a week for about 2 weeks straight. Okay, and you will find it actually probably working before then. That just makes sure it actually locks in. So then what you do is you can actually, you know what, Stephen, I will make sure I fix that right now, actually probably when I get off of this call. And for some reason, by the way, YouTube slows down my ability to actually come back to people until it's fully uploaded. So just make sure that maybe if you check back like within 5 minutes of me coming off of this, then it should actually work. But yeah, would love to have you. Yeah, thank you for that question, Deborah. And so again, you want to do that, right? and you want to actually anchor it, because this will anchor it. So again, and you can anchor it faster by doing it more throughout the day. So if you could do it 3 times a day, dude, you might anchor that in 2 days. But most people end up having busy lives and so on and so forth and so on, right? So make it work for you. But the anchoring is this. So then you could do that throughout your day. If you have a doubt, just press it down here. Nobody's going to see what you're doing, right? And you basically recall those same emotions, okay? And I guarantee you, these actually techniques work. They're all backed by science. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for jumping on. If you're looking for coaching or even group coaching, check out my Discord, which there is a link there, which I will change right now. You obviously can check out my other videos, which would be great as well. I'm going to have a website up very, very soon, so it'll be a lot easier to get to. And I do have amazing packages out there that I think are affordable, and we accept payments. And yeah, so get in touch either way. But thank you so much, and I'm probably going to be doing these lives for a few more days. So just be on the lookout for that. So much love. Thank you for being so supportive and nice. You guys are all amazing. And remember to imagine well.